Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Ask the Sams Anything About Marriage, our weekly live stream Wednesdays from 7 to 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time. We are marriage mentors, Jiva and
Sulojana
Sam.
Sam.
Yeah, we have always have to point out because when you have two rather uncommon names,
Yeah.
you need to know who is who, right? Because we sometimes get messages addressed to me as a woman and her as a man. So, hello, brothers, Lojana, sister Jiva. Okay. So anyway, we're having fun. Okay. So who are we? We are marriage mentors, as we said. And Lojana, what is our claim to fame?
Yeah, so we guarantee breakthrough for couples on the brink of breakdown in as little as 10 weeks. Okay. And yeah, so yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm not looking at the screen, it's because I'm checking to make sure that we are live streaming on all channels. It looks like we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all of you who are watching, we're so thankful that you're able to join us today. And we'd like you to do us a favor, say hi in the chat section. Okay, so we know where you're watching from. So it looks like we have a friend, Maria, Christian Coach on YouTube, and another good friend, Cheryl Hilton, is on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so I know some of my LinkedIn connections were going to get on board as well. So, folks, as you come along, uh, say hi and tell us where you're watching from. We tend to have an international audience most days that we do this. And so we're truly appreciative. And Maria is from Lantana, Florida. And Cheryl, you're from Woodstock, right? Woodstock, Ontario, not that far from us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know there's more of you watching. We just aren't seeing you. Hey, Ron and Nancy Mills
Mm-hmm.
from London, Ontario. Awesome. Great friends of ours. And so good to have you all on board. Today, we have a very special, treat for you. We have a new friend to us, um, but we've heard a lot about Dr. Andrew Blackwood from our two boys. They just think the world of him. They both met him under very different circumstances, but he's been a tremendous blessing in both their lives. And of course, we have another common friend in Jordan Berta, who I think may have been instrumental in what is one of the introductions. So it's just amazing, even though we just connected with him personally, a short while ago. It feels like he's been a friend of the family for a long time, right? So we're going to bring Andrew on board here in just a minute. Okay, yeah, Cheryl, you're in Chelmsford now. Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, so anybody else that's joined us, please say hi. Let us know where you're from. And Bishop Anba, all the way from BC, from Newton, BC. Good to have you on board, sir. And yeah, so as the rest of you come, we may not acknowledge you so that we don't break the flow, but we truly appreciate you joining us and taking the time. And Andrew has a hard stop at 7:45, so we need to get going as quickly as we can. And yeah, good question. So Sloja just reminded me that if you have any questions, as you know, we've been posting the last couple of days to let you know that Andrew, he's a psychotherapist, so he deals with all sorts of situations. But today we brought him on board very specifically to address apologies. And he's written a book called The Art of a Genuine Apology, which we had posted as well. Let me see if I can get you in the frame right there. So that's the book that this wonderful man has written. And so, and of course, hey, hello, Whitney and Josh from Lewiston, New York, just on the other side of our border. And as you know, the context of marriage, apologies are a regular occurrence. Yes. If you've been married for any length of time, then chances are you run into a situation or two or 2,000 that require an apology. And so that's what we're going to do. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask Andrew, Coach Drew is how he's known. Coach Drew is here to answer your questions and throw the right plays at you. All right. And so please put them in the chat.
Yeah.
And we'll pick up on them, and we will ask those questions. We already have a few questions that we posted that we're going to ask. But Slojan, why don't you take a minute and introduce Andrew formally, and then we can bring him on board. Okay. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay.
So Dr. Andrew L. Blackwood, affectionately known as Coach Drew, has been supporting the healing and growth of individuals, couples, and families for more than 15 years. Wow, that's great. He's the CEO and founder of the Healing Communication Center and offers workshops, courses, and programs incorporating healing elements featured in his book, The Art of a Genuine Apology. If you've seen him on his YouTube channel, where am I? Yeah, which is called Coach Drew Can, or shows like 100 Huntley Street, you will appreciate his ability to engage and bring clarity to the complex challenges of healing and relationships. Healing in relationships. This grace sets him apart as a true facilitator of change. Sorry.
All right. That's what happens when you bring something on your wife.
And I didn't have my glasses on. Sorry.
All right. So everybody, please welcome in a virtual way our guest today, Dr. Andrew Blackwood. So
hello,
Andrew, great
everyone.
to have you on board with us today.
Thank you. Really, really good to be here. Thanks so much for the wonderful introduction. all that good stuff, even before the written one. That was really good. I appreciate that. I'm really glad to meet you both and your sons. Oh, wonderful, wonderful men who love God and love people. So it's an honor to be in such good company.
Yes, so it's great to have you with us today, Andrew. I'm kind of fooling around with my technology to see if I can get both of us side by side, but I'm not quite able to do that yet.
All right.
But yeah,
I know how this tech thing works. I get it.
Yeah. So when we posted that you were coming, there were a couple of people from our Niagara region that said they've actually seen you in person at Heritage Bookstore.
That's right.
Your book, and they've autographed copies of your book. And I know I haven't read through the whole book in detail, but the little that I've gleaned from it, it's just phenomenal stuff. And that's why we posted the links earlier on, and we'll do it again so everyone can get a hold of it. So let's begin by asking you the question, like what prompted you to actually, write a whole book about something that we consider to be a fairly simple matter called an apology?
Yeah, many people say, what's the big deal? Why do you need a book? You just say sorry. It's one word, or I'm sorry, 2 words, But after 15 years of working with people, seeing them make attempts, this is even when they have, a desire to make things better. I watch them make things worse with their attempts. So good intentions, like I say in the book, are not always good enough. Good intentions don't always equal good outcomes. And I know, my parents, they are wonderful people, but we're not wonderful together. I know the pain of watching separation, even to go to court and have to testify. So I know personally what pains happen in relationships without adequate support and understanding of things that are simple but significant, right? So, we'll get into some of the complex realities of addressing emotional injury, but that's basically what I want to see everyone in the world able to do. Address emotional hurt, emotional injury with care and competence. Care and competence. Those 2 things are very important. So I see it so much. I see people hurting, and I've seen people helped with the art of a genuine apology to bring healing to their relationship. So after seeing a few times, several times, many times over the years, and seeing people make the same mistakes, I'm like, okay, maybe we should just put this in a book and give it to everyone so they get a sense of what not to do as well as what to do instead. So that's the reason for the book.
Awesome. Okay. So when we first started introducing this whole theme, I actually did a poll on LinkedIn. And the poll was, when you realize that you've hurt someone, how quickly do you apologize? And so the options were, I say I'm sorry as soon as possible, later after careful thought, and then there was another. And so I don't know if you can see the results or not.
Yeah.
So overwhelmingly, 65% said that they say I'm sorry right away, and 30% said after careful thought, and the 4%, gave some explanations as to why they gave the responses that they did. And so so it actually caused a really good healthy debate about why some people said it's like I need to apologize right away, and others saying no, there are times when a quick apology is not appropriate. And so and I know you make the distinction. It's not entirely between a quick and a genuine apology, but a genuine apology is not usually a quick apology. And so, so why do we have to take the time, to offer an apology? Maybe you can address that first. Why are quick apologies not necessarily helpful all the time?
Right. So I'll start by saying this. There are different kinds of apologies, right? There are the kinds of apologies that are not apologies at all, right? Where people are not really sorry. They just want you to shut up and move on, right? Okay, I'm sorry, right? That kind of quick apology, it wins nobody, any love battle, okay? Then there is the Band-Aid apology, like, I'm sorry, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. So there's some sincerity to it, but there's no depth to it, right? So when we think about apologies, just roughly speaking, there are three categories. So there's the, basic common courtesy apology. If you bump into somebody on the street, you say, I'm sorry, right? There's an element of taking responsibility. This was an accident. You move on with your life. So that's like 1 to 3. But if you move to the pain of a 4 to a 7, that's where you want a meaningful apology that's full of meaning. But when you move to like an 8 or a 10, where there's significant hurt, a quick apology in terms of the brevity of the apology, it won't do. So there's quick and then there's immediate, okay? So immediate is wonderful. However, to really understand what a genuine apology is, it brings together both sincerity, like I mean it, but then there is also an accurate focus, like correct focus, like why am I apologizing? What am I apologizing for? What am I taking responsibility for? It goes even deeper to acknowledge what is the impact that I've had on this person, right? So, I mean, if you can get all of that in not only an immediate apology, but if you can get all that in a way that the other person really appreciates that you understand the impact that you've had on them, then it has no bearing on like how quick, how short, how long, because that's the goal. The goal is to heal the other person's hurt. That is the primary goal of the art of a genuine apology. So there's an art to it. There are actually 4 easy steps, right? I should say 4 simple steps through the art of a genuine apology. And it comes out in an acronym called LIVE. You want to apologize in a way that your apology lives on long after it's been offered. Because I get the question many times, why do people keep bringing stuff up? I said I'm sorry already. Why don't they just get over it? And then in my head and in my heart, I'm like, because it didn't hit the spot, right? It didn't address significantly enough or accurately enough the degree of hurt that they experience, because when it does, then they can move forward, then they can move on.
Yeah, I think you said something that is very key, that the apology must lead to healing of the hurt in the other person. And so, like, there are times when you apologize and you feel the healing, like the hurt, the guilt, and everything is gone. And I think I know, as a pastor for over 35 years, there's a sense in which, we in the church have perpetuated that, where you apologize quickly so that you're not feeling guilty. So it takes away your guilt, but it leaves the other person hurt still. And that's why, it's like, hey, I apologize, I feel so great, and what's the matter with you? But the key, because the key is that their hurt has not been addressed, and the healing has not been promoted by what you said, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I love talking about this, because there's so many parts to it, Jiva and Salojana. There's so many parts to it. There is guilt in the sense of the emotion of guilt, but then there is guilt in the fact of guilt, the state of guilt, right? So when you apologize with a genuine apology, there are 5 values woven into it. There's humility, vulnerability, empathy, responsibility, and accountability. If it's missing any of those 5 pieces, it's not going to meet the mark, okay? It's not going to bring the healing. So when we apologize, yes, it does do something for our sense of guilt, our feelings of guilt, because we're taking responsibility, right? We're being accountable. That really does help. We're addressing it. But there's a difference between forgiveness, an apology, a genuine apology, and reconciliation. So as we start to think about healing, forgiveness is the healing for me, right? Or the individual, right? So whether or not somebody forgives me, I can still receive my healing and move on, right? They will not likely receive their healing if they don't forgive, no matter how genuine your apology is. So you're not responsible for their healing. You're responsible to bring that offering of a gift to them, to address their pain, to address their hurt. You can only do your part. If they're not receptive, if they're not ready, if they're not open, it might have nothing to do with you. It might have to do with them. It might have to do with past hurts that they haven't addressed. So, there's responsibility on your part to make the offering, but it's not your responsibility to do the healing. You have a part, but so do they, right? So, a lot of people are still in relationships, as you know, in your wealth of experience, but they're not really reconciled, because reconciliation takes 2, right? It takes 2 to be reconciled. And to offer a genuine apology, believe it or not, it also takes 2, because, so I'll go over the steps.
Sure. Yeah.
Andrew, can you just repeat those 5 qualities, or the 5 values that you mentioned a while ago?
Yeah, certainly. The 5 values woven into a genuine apology are humility, vulnerability, empathy, responsibility, and accountability. And I'll explain how and why with the steps. So when you offer a genuine apology, the first thing you want to do, the first step is L. You want to list and literally label what you're apologizing for. This way there can be no mistake, right? In order to do that, it takes humility, right? To acknowledge I'm imperfect, I was wrong, you know what? I'm sorry for that, and you're taking responsibility. So both of those values are there. It also can take vulnerability, right? To acknowledge, okay, this is embarrassing. I did this, right? You're opening up yourself to someone to be like, you know what? I don't care. I don't want your apology. I don't forgive you. You're really opening yourself up to that. So right there in that first step, you see several values woven into it. Now, the second step is where you it's where you imagine the impact on the other person, right? So even before you go to them, you want to think about how your actions have impacted that person. It's not enough to just say, yeah, you know what, I did this, I'm sorry. No, you want to go the extra mile to consider what is the impact that your actions had on that person. So you want to be able to label the emotion that they've experienced. This is where the empathy comes in. Because a lot of people will not accept an apology if you just say you're sorry, if you don't understand the depth of the impact that they've experienced. So in working with people all these years, one of the things that I believe is really an important part about healthy communication when it comes to matters of the heart is being able to label your emotions, right? Because when somebody's really hurt, there is a sense of grief that happens, right? And it's where, let's take, Sophia is the expert in the topic of pornography. But let's say somebody's partner, spouse, husband or wife was found using pornography or watching pornography. So for somebody, it's just like, okay, it's pornography. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It's my sin. It's my bad, whatever. But to the other person, that might have been a violation of trust. That might have touched on a core of them, like, you know what? I waited to marry somebody who would be faithful to me. And for me, that you were unfaithful. You shattered my dreams that I've been waiting for all my life. You did that to me, right? So if you don't understand the grief and the loss, you're not going to be able to touch it. You're not going to be able to reach it. So a genuine apology is only as effective as the appreciation and the understanding of the depth of the hurt. If you don't understand how deep my hurt is, you're not going to be able to reach me with your apology. So you want to think about that before you approach the person, but then you want to also make sure you got it right, because you could be thinking they feel hurt and betrayed when they're actually angry, more angry than they've ever been, right? Or they might not be angry, they might just be sad and depressed as a result. So you want to get it right. You want to get it right. In my webinar called Listening with Love, I talk about how to do that. But suffice to say, the art of a genuine apology is going to incorporate that in step 2, right? Now, step 3 is where you want to verbalize a commitment to a plan of action. That's the V. You want to verbalize a commitment to a plan of action. Most people, when they apologize, they do a decent job about taking responsibility. They don't know about step number 2, so they skip over that. And they certainly haven't considered step number 3. Step number 3 is really wonderfully complex, because most people, they will accept your apology once. And then when the same thing happens again, they might accept it again. But the third time around, they ain't trying to have it. And that same apology is going to become another injury, right? So if you don't have a plan of action, which is based on your understanding of why you were in the position in the first place, chances are you're going to do it again. So I would not offer an apology until, especially if it's in that 8 to 10 range, until I have a good, solid plan about how to avoid doing that again. Okay? And the last step is E. And this is where vulnerability is really, really, I forgot to mention, in the third step, that's where you see the accountability and the responsibility. Like, I have a plan. I'm going to share this plan with you. I'm going to follow through on this plan. That's the accountability piece. And the last step 4, is where you extend an apology. That's the E. That's where you ask the person, you know what? Not only do you accept my apology, but because I want my apology to address the hurt that I've caused, I want you to give me some feedback. Did I miss anything? Because I want to get it right. You want to invite them to share what they think, how they feel about your apology. And that is vulnerability. That takes courage. That does not happen in most apologies, in a quick apology, right? So it highlights that there's a dialogue right? We might have to come back at this thing once or twice. In fact, when you live out this apology, when you act out your action plan, what you're doing is showing that I'm accountable, and you're discussing it. Can you see the change? Right? You're rebuilding credibility, right? So that's how the genuine apology moves from a bridge from forgiveness, right, to reconciliation. Because if you don't have a plan and you both don't agree on this plan about how you're going to move forward together differently, you don't have reconciliation. I forgive you, that's not reconciliation. I understand you, and I'm willing to go the distance with you, and we're going to do this differently. How can two walk together lest they agree? That's reconciliation.
Wow. That is a powerful revelation that you just released to us, Andrew. Yeah. And friends, like I've read through some of these, in Andrew's book, and you really need to get the book to get the full impact of it, because we have such a short time period here, where all he can cover is some of the basics. But this really does pull things together. Okay, and I love the example that you used, especially in the context of marriage, because that's where we see this happen quite often. Somebody will look at their spouse and say, "But I apologize. Like, what's your problem? Like, why do you keep on bringing it up?" and really, yeah, I forgave. And first of all, I forgave you as well. But forgiveness is not enough, because forgiveness needs to lead to reconciliation.
That's right.
So that's where your steps are so key for somebody to move from forgiveness to reconciliation. Like one of the things that we stress in our mentorship is the spirit, soul, and body connection. The way that we're created, and so forgiveness happens in the spirit realm. Reconciliation is really more of in the soul realm. Your mind, will, and emotions are involved, and then when you get that taken care of, now it starts to manifest in the physical, where you can get along together, where you can begin to like each other, grow in intimacy together, and so on. So this is just incredible stuff that you're sharing with us today.
And I also like what you said. You have to give the other person the plan that you have, so that in the future this will not happen. That kind of confirms, also gives the other person, the confidence that you're not going to do the same thing again. The same. Yeah. So I like that. I just had one question, Andrew. So if we teach our children to apologize right away, I still remember, when you punish your kids, you watch them, who did the wrong thing, and you tell them, apologize to your brother or sister. Now, so that's not the right thing to do, right?
Well,
our children are grown up. It's a little late now, but
like I said, there's certain aspects to an apology, right? And there are certain goals that you have as you're teaching your children. So a coerced apology can actually teach them to apologize when they are actually not sorry. So on the one hand, yes, you want to teach them to take responsibility, but I think one of the goals there, or the desire of a parent, is not just responsibility, but we want them to be caring. We want them to care. So, when you acknowledge it, and I appreciate, Philogena, how you said when you've seen something, right? When you have the whole story, you have the picture, then you have a better angle to say, okay, I saw you do this. Okay. So if you want to tap into the empathy, you can ask, okay, did you want to hurt your sister or your brother? Do you want them to feel bad? Do you want them to feel sad? And some children might be like, yes, right? Then you can find out, okay, help me understand what's that about. Then you get more of the story. Well, she punched me, right? But sometimes it doesn't go like yesterday with my 4-year-old. I said, I know you're a loving sister, right? You want your sister to feel sad because in 5 minutes you're going to want to play with her. Is that what you want? And she goes, no. Okay. So if you don't want your sister to feel sorry, what can you do about that? Right? So you kind of lead them and educate them about the empathy part too, so that they actually want to offer this apology. Right. And I know one of the questions that comes up quite often is, do I have to apologize? No. If you are apologizing and you are not sincere, it is not good for you and it is not good for the other person. Right? So if you do not believe you are responsible for something, do not apologize for it. Do not apologize for it. And things can be wonderfully complex, right? You can be sorry for part of something and not the whole thing.
Right.
But it's not all or nothing with an apology. Apologize for the part that you're sorry for, right? I hear it all the time where people mess up, they speak the truth, but they don't speak it in love, right? So you can go back and don't apologize for the content of what you said. You can apologize for the tone. You can apologize for the timing. You know what? I addressed this issue in public and I could see how embarrassed you were by that. I'm so sorry. I did not give enough thought into when and how I would address the issue with you. That's very different than saying, I'm sorry for what I said, right? So when you really take the time to think about the apology, you dissect it and say, I'm sorry for this part, and I'm not sorry for this part, right? So you apologize for the part that you're sorry for, and then you can work out the other part.
Yeah. I love the way in your book you talk about that you need sincerity and intentionality. How both need to be present. For an apology to be genuine. Yeah. Okay. So, folks, those of you who are watching, if you have any questions to ask Coach Drew about what he's shared or anything else that's on your heart, your mind about apology, just put it in the chat or write as a comment wherever you're watching us from, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. We'll get your questions and we will ask them.
The questions we have.
Yeah. So in the meantime, as you are thinking of them and writing them out, we did receive a question earlier, Andrew, that we'll run by you right now. So this is from one of our regulars on Facebook, Brenna. And Brenna asked a question: what do you do when only an apology will fix things, but you truly don't believe you were in the wrong? And then she adds in brackets, I always apologize anyway, but realize this may not be the best tactic. So how would you respond to that?
So I think that's a follow-up to the comments earlier, right? We want to apologize when we are sorry and for what we are sorry for. So, to say that only an apology will fix this, I don't know how true that is, right? Sometimes people are demanding an apology when that's just kind of what they think that they want. But what they actually might want is not so much the words I'm sorry, but they might want an acknowledgement of something. They might want an expression of empathy. They might, right? So it's important to figure out what the person really wants. So in situations where this is what chapter 4 is all about, it's called a compassionate acknowledgement. So you can acknowledge with compassion the pain that somebody is experiencing without saying I'm responsible and I'm experiencing remorse for what I've done. Okay? So there's a very big difference. There's a difference between regret and remorse. I talk about that in the book too. Like you can regret something like, I wish I never did that because it's causing a whole bunch of problems. Or I regret that I did this because now I have to pay the consequence. But if there's no remorse, then it's not a real, genuine apology. So I use the example, it's easier with teens, right? Or your children, because these apologies are not just relevant for, adult relationships or married couples. It's relevant for brothers. It's relevant for companies. It's relevant for children. So, the child does poorly on the test because they didn't study. And you have already told them, if you do not do well on this test, you are not going to the party this Saturday. You had an agreement. So now they didn't study, they didn't do well on the test, right? So they're upset with you. Are you going to apologize and say, I'm sorry, I'm not letting you go to this party? No, you're not sorry for that? No. You can feel sad. I feel sad for you, right? I feel sad for me. I was planning to have the whole weekend free of you, right? I feel sad that you're not going to this party, right? And I see you, all your friends, you're going to miss out. I hear you. I feel terrible about that for you. You can show empathy without taking responsibility, because when you do, you might cave and be like, okay, if I'm really sorry, I should let you go to the party. Or they're going to see, well, it's your fault. You're not letting, no, this is not my fault. You didn't study for the test, right? The test is more important than the party. So when you get your act together next time around, you could go to the party, right? So it's those principles. You want to, you can empathize with the person's pain without taking responsibility if you didn't cause it.
Great point. We have another question from one of our viewers, Whitney. And Whitney is asking about any thoughts you have on timing when one party needs time to process and the other party wants to address the issue immediately.
Right. And that can happen on both sides. The person who is hurt, they might want an apology immediately, or the person who did the offense wants to get it out the way or feels really sorry and wants to address it right now. So let's come at both sides. For the person who is hurt and they want time, give them the time, give them the space, right? If they're not ready to receive your apology, that's in your best interest to give them the space, right? Because often when we hurt people, there's often a boundary issue. So like I said before, good intentions don't always equal good outcomes. Just because you have a good intention, you can't force somebody to accept your apology, right? You need to accept me. God said, forgive me. God said you should forgive. You should. Whoa, love is patient, right? you get to hold on to that responsibility a little bit longer, right? Give them the time, because it's important that their emotional experience is prioritized. You might want to unburden yourself, but that's not what this is about. The correct focus is about addressing their pain. So if they're not ready to address the pain, then you wait. Or let's hop on the other side. Be prepared to offer the apology more than once. Okay? You can offer it immediately in a short form, right? To say, you know what, I see what I did, I see how it impacted you, but I can also see you probably want some time and you don't want to see this face for now. So I will come back and address it again, right? I'm sorry, and let's follow up. You let me know when you're ready, right? Or I'll come back tomorrow and apologize. So be prepared to come back and address it. So yes, apologize once, but come back and apologize again, right? So if they're not ready to receive your apology, you can either wait or you can apologize quickly and come back. Because if they're in a state where they're, experiencing intense emotions, they're probably not going to hear you anyways. So people come back with, I apologize. They're like, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Well, you did, but you didn't, because they didn't hear it, right? So timing is important, and a willingness to come back to it. And there's a couple reasons why we want to be prepared to come back to it. I talk about it quite a bit in chapter 7 when it talks about forgiveness and the difference between that and the apology and reconciliation. There's a parallel process between forgiveness and grief, right? When we are hurt, there's often a loss. And similar to when somebody dies, let's say the person died 5 years ago. I'm walking down the street and I'd be like, whoa, you see somebody who looks exactly like that person, it's going to remind you, right? So we can be triggered, or things can come up again for us where, something that has pretty much healed, right? It can be opened again for one reason or another. So I call these invitations to forgive again, right? We want to forgive again. That's an example of a time that you might want to forgive again. Or let's say you come across something and you realize, wait a sec, I didn't realize that injury that I forgave yesterday caused this problem today. Or 5 years, oh my goodness, you mean I can't have kids because of the STI, right? It's an injury that was addressed, but now it's even bigger. That's the complexity of life. So be prepared if that some person comes up to you again and says, you know what, did you hear them out? You hear them, even, so what? You addressed it already. So what? You apologized already. Apologize again, right? Now, that's not to say that you are to be held captive and indebted forever. Because some people, they will try to hold your actions over your head because they haven't forgiven you. If they choose not to forgive, that's on them. If you've done your best to address it from a place of, you follow the steps. You bought the book. You went and bought the book. You followed the steps. You took the course, right? You've been doing your stuff, and they still, right?
Yeah.
There might be some reasons for that, but I don't want people to think that I cannot experience freedom and healing for me because somebody doesn't forgive me. That's not the case.
Yeah.
That said, you do, didn't talk about this earlier. You do want to be prepared to offer that apology again. Again, express that compassion. Listen for that, that empathy, that thing to empathize for. And this came to mind that there's a wonderful relationship between forgiveness and apologies and reconciliation. Before we even apologize, and maybe I'll come back to talk about forgiveness if you want me to, but before you even offer an apology, it's often appropriate to forgive the person that you're apologizing to.
Yes.
Because we know it takes two to tango, and often the hurts that we've inflicted upon others follows a series of interactions. So you might have been hurt en route to hurting somebody, right? There's a history, there's years of stuff, like, in the situations where some people are unfaithful, there's been years of neglect. Does that excuse your choice to be unfaithful? No. But you probably had years of hurt leading up to that moment. Before you offer your apology, you want to forgive that person. You want to go through your own forgiveness process. So there's no strings attached when you offer the apology, because a lot of people, they offer an apology and they expect one in return. Right? If you're expecting an apology, then you're not ready to offer an apology, right? We want to be ready. You can't, it's not enough to be desirous for reconciliation and forgiveness, but you want to be ready. There's a difference between desire and readiness. You want to be ready. And if you're not ready, let the person know, you know what? I want to offer you an apology, and I want it to come from a solid place. Right now I have some mixed emotions, so just give me some time, right? So, there's always ways to bridge that time gap with healthy communication, right? Healthy communication is healing communication. So you experience healing for yourself as you talk yourself through it, as you walk yourself through it. And then when you share that, you are engaging in a healing process with the other person.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, this has been just amazing. And as you said, the one session is not adequate to cover all that you can say on the subject. And, I know that you offer seminars and so on. I don't know if you transitioned to offering webinars. If you are, then you let us know, because I know that we'll be very, very happy to get the word out to people who follow us.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And so we will do that. We need to let you go because we have another commitment here in a few minutes.
Okay.
But if anybody has any other questions, please send them, and we will definitely get them to Andrew. Can you answer one quick question before you leave?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, so here's the question. Oops, where are we? There. There's the question. So how do you reconcile that with the Bible verse that speaks of not letting the sun go down on your anger? In terms of, I think, yeah, giving people time versus um, getting the reconciliation initiated as quickly as you can.
Right. So, I mean, so if the person is angry, like both parties can be angry, again, forgiveness requires one. Okay. So you can choose to forgive instantly, but forgiveness is also a process, right? There are steps that you want to go through in a forgiveness process. So you can only forgive to the degree that you are aware of your loss. Okay. So you choose to forgive and you can say the words, but if you haven't understood the depth to which you've been hurt, you really can't forgive it.
Yeah.
So you can start the process, right? Your heart is in the right place, but sometimes it takes time to really understand the depth of the transgression, the depth of the pain, because sometimes it connects with other hurts, well, usually, that you've had in the past, right? So it can dig up stuff that you want to look at. You want to look at that. People kind of try to sweep it under the rug and pretend it doesn't happen. And that's why we have a lot of hurting people, because you haven't addressed it well.
Yeah.
When Jesus was on the cross, he could say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I know what they're doing. I see the whole picture, and I forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive them. So if you see the whole picture, by all means, before the sun goes down, forgive it. But if you don't, or you're struggling, don't beat yourself up, right? Ask God to put his finger on it. Say, show me, what is it? What's making it so hard for me to let this go? And you go with the flow, right? You follow him. He will lead you into all truth. He will help you to experience the healing, because I know he wants us to be healed. He wants us all to be healed, but he's also aware that sometimes that healing doesn't happen before the sun goes down, right? Sometimes it takes some time. Sometimes it takes some time.
Yeah. Well, Slojan and I, we try to live by that principle as much as we can in terms of initiating reconciliation. But you're right. Like, there are times when we just have to say, "Hey, let's wait till tomorrow. Let's wait till we're both in the proper frame of mind, emotional state."
I think if you're going to deal with it, say the next day, then you're at peace with it, right? Yeah. So you can maybe give the other person a time. Say, hey, I'd like to talk more about this tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah. To answer Whitney's question on the timing, when like if, in our case, Sloja generally needs more time. She's more of a contemplator by nature, and so everything she needs time to process. And so I need to honor that and say, okay, Sloja, when is a good time for us to go through it? Because we know we're going to move towards reconciliation for sure. We're not going to let the hurt just keep on staying there with an open gaping wound forever. But I don't set the timing just because I want to get this settled right away. If she's the one that experienced the hurt, then she needs to tell me when she's ready. And then when we now sit down and go through the steps of reconciliation, then it happens every time. So, all right, friends, we really need to honor Andrew's time. And so we really appreciate you joining us today, Andrew. And we always ask our guests, to pray for our audience before you leave. So,
do you have time?
If you could
certainly.
A prayer and a blessing. Wonderful.
So thank you so much for having me. Father, right now, we thank you for your provision for us, your provision of grace, of healing, of forgiveness, of understanding. And I pray that everybody who watches this will be open to you putting your finger on their pain, but also you opening their eyes to the pain of others that they can address. So thank you for giving us the words to say. Thank you for being our healing, our comfort, so that we can then give that comfort and that healing experience to others. Thank you for all these wonderful things in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we
My
will definitely
pleasure.
have you
Thanks for
back
having
again.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I feel like you need to offer like a 3-hour master class.
So said, so done. It will be done. All right.
we'll be glad to host
All right.
you and bring a lot of people into it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
appreciate it.
appreciate
I
you
look
again,
forward
friends.
to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were all blessed by what you heard today. And again, there's the book, The Art of a Genuine Apology. You can buy it on Amazon. And so get your copy and be blessed by it. Thanks again, Andrew. We'll talk to you
My
again soon.
pleasure.
God
Thank
bless.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So, friends, wasn't that a wonderful, wonderful
Wow.
session that we had today with Andrew Blackwood?
Mhm.
Um,
Some deep information,
Mhm.
in depth. Yeah.
yeah.
So good.
Yeah. If you're joining us late, we are marriage mentors Jivan, Shlogan, and Sam, and we do this live stream every Wednesday night from 7 to 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. And our claim to fame is that Shlogan, you want to do that?
Yep. We guarantee breakthrough for couples on the brink of breakdown in as little as 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So
So if some of these things resonated with you that Andrew shared, I know one of the things that we find, with couples that come to us is like sometimes you need some hand holding. You need somebody to guide you through the steps, to teach you some of these steps, and not just teach them to you like in a book form, but actually help you to walk them, like repeatedly. And that's part of what we do in our mentorship. And so, if your marriage is in a place where you need that kind of help, then
or if you know of somebody who's going through, challenges with their marriage, who are on the brink of breakdown, then you can refer them to us, send them to our website, and we'll be glad to help them.
Or wherever you're watching on LinkedIn or Facebook, just send us a direct message saying, help with the marriage, something very simple, and we will get back to you. All right. So thank you once again, everybody, for joining us, and we will do this again next week, of course. And one of the things we really appreciate from our viewers is the questions that you send in. A lot of times our topics are determined by what you say are important to you, that you would like us to address. So feel free to send those questions to us. I mean, you can put them in the comment section, but also if it's a little bit of a personal nature that you don't want to put it in a public forum, then send us a direct message, and we will make sure that we address them. And sometimes we're able to bring highly qualified guests like Andrew Blackwood to come and talk to us. Otherwise, we will address some things out of our own experience. All right. So thanks again. Have a great evening. God bless. See you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.